All right, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to another edition of my podcast. It's been a while. There was the international break that was a week, and then I was sick, and then got busy. So I think this is the first time I'm doing this in a month, but excited to get back to it. I've got some good bets for the Premier League as well as the MLS Cup playoffs, and I kind of want to just first touch on some of what you may have missed. I was still tweeting some of my plays, or I guess posting them to X, and there were some futures that I took for the MLS Cup playoffs that I think are still pretty playable. So um, LAFC to reach the final and Minnesota United to reach the final were the two plays that I posted. Minnesota won on penalties, so that their odds are significantly shorter now. I got them at 40 to 1, and I threw a quarter unit on that before the playoffs started. And I think now it's around 25 to 1, but I still think that's a pretty good number. Just given their path, I really like their chances of beating Real Salt Lake maybe this weekend, and then I'm pretty low on the Galaxy if they advance against Colorado, or even against Colorado. I would favor Minnesota pretty significantly there. So I think when you're getting 25 to 1 odds still for them to reach the final, that's a good bet. And as for LAFC, I took them to reach the final because I was a little bit concerned about uh, if they were to make a final, they they were to play Columbus or Inter Miami, which are the two huge favorites to come out of the East, they would be on the road in the final, and they've already had a couple of final losses to Columbus, so I was trying to kind of avoid that uh, equity in my bet. But I think now that Columbus is already on the ropes against Red Bulls, I think that I mean even in retrospect, I think making the big jump and taking them to win the whole cup. It was at plus 700 before the playoffs started. I think I saw it around plus 600 still. So that's something that I would recommend to people if you didn't see that, didn't catch that, or didn't tail it at the time. I still think those are two really good bets for the MLS playoffs. But as you can see, we're going to start things off with the Premier League here. And this is a play that, from a projection-based perspective, I don't have a ton of value on Bournemouth here, but Manchester City, they played on Wednesday, I believe, in the League Cup, and Bournemouth are already out of that, so they had the week off, and Man City will be playing then on about what is that, 4 days rest. I think this is on Saturday, and they're going to be away here to Bournemouth. And Bournemouth is a side that I've backed quite a few times already this season. I think they're pretty underrated, and Man City, who might be a little bit short-handed here, I think this is a good spot for Bournemouth to pick up a result. I ended up going with the Asian handicap at plus one. Um, I have two systems on Bournemouth, and these are like the two systems that I really love. These are kind of my favorite systems, maybe. They have incredible ROIs if you back them blindly in the long term. So I really like the spot for Bournemouth here, and I already took this. I took this at Bet Online at minus 107. Um, and usually I would consider waiting. With a big underdog like this to place your wager and try to wait essentially as long as you can, maybe even up until kickoff. That's something that I might be doing later on with Atlanta United against Inter Miami because a side like Man City or sides like Inter Miami, these are consistently very heavily publicly backed sides, so there's kind of a misconception that lines are always being moved by sharps and that you always have to get good CLV in order to have a good bet. And I think it's important to get the best line you possibly can, and you do want to be beating CLV, but that doesn't mean that, or beating the line, but um, that doesn't mean that just because you didn't get CLV that it's a bad bet. And I think when you're trying to back a big underdog, um, usually those lines tend to move in the direction of the super big favorite because the majority of the public is going to be backing them and they're going to get a ton of volume. Um, and I mean that's not always the case. And so for this week, I had already taken Bournemouth because I just figured that Man City did lose midweek, so maybe their stock went down a little bit, and I like the price at where it is now, so I just decided to get my bet in. But for those of you still on the fence, I think you still have plenty of time. I don't think this line is going to be moving quickly as opposed to maybe some of the other totals bets that I've placed. But anyways, I'm going to try to keep my breakdowns a little bit shorter because I can tend to ramble on. I've had two 30-minute podcasts now that I'm usually covering around six bets. So I'm really trying to give you guys insight into how I'm making these decisions and maybe some education along the way. But at any rate, we move on here. This is going to be our other Premier League bet, our second bet. I think I only have three today. Um, and this is Everton against Southampton. Um, this is probably my favorite bet in a while. It's definitely my favorite bet this week. This is a borderline two-unit play for me. I hesitated a little just because my data on some of the recently promoted teams, Southampton being one of them, of course, as well as Ipswich Town and Leicester City. Uh, the data that I have to use for my projections, it's a little young, I guess you could say, just because we're a little bit into the season now. I'm kind of pulling some of that data, but it can be a little bit skewed based on schedule and things like that. Wolves, for example, have had a brutal schedule so far to start the season, so that makes it a little bit trickier for them or for me to trust the data. And the same with a lot of these recently promoted teams, where I don't like to dip into some of their older data from the past. So it's the reason why I didn't go a full two-unit play here, but my projections show a lot of value. And um, just from a situational standpoint, I think that Everton is clearly moving in a different direction right now. They've had, I think, four games unbeaten in a row, maybe five. I'm not sure. I've been backing them pretty consistently, maybe every week. I've been backing Everton on the Jono bet market because they're just really underrated. They had a tough start to the season. They had some brutal losses. I remember they were up 2-0 to Aston Villa, so they ended up losing that game. And uh, I think it kind of skewed people's perceptions of Everton unfairly, and it seems like that's kind of carried on despite them picking up some results here. I think this is just a really great bet to take advantage of. Uh, I would say a mid-table team in Everton who, despite coming on the road, should be near even money, I would say, in the money line. So when you're getting them at slight underdogs, I think this is kind of a no-brainer bet here. Southampton is very likely going to get relegated, if not probably going to be bottom of the table at the end of the season. So they still haven't won a game. I like my chances of Everton winning this game outright. If not, we get a draw, then we get a draw. But at minus 104, I think this is a pretty obvious spot here. I'm surprised that the line hasn't moved already, or I haven't seen many people on it. So um, sometimes that's a good thing to be kind of on a solitary island there with your bets. So that's my favorite bet of the week. And then just one I want to take another stab on here is Liverpool against Brighton. Um, the reason why I'm taking this bet is not necessarily from a projection standpoint. I think I had it around where the market is now, but like I was saying before with some of my systems, this is another great spot here for Brighton, um, where Liverpool is kind of playing on less rest, and Brighton is coming in. They just played each other midweek. Um, and I think that's a spot where typically when you see a team face a team consecutively, uh, I think the underdog has a greater chance of covering their price or making it seem a little bit closer than you would expect. And I think that's because they're used to seeing each other. They're used to seeing their uh, how they play each other specifically, tactically. Um, so I want to take a stab on Brighton here. I was kind of torn on if I was going to take them uh, in as just a straight money line bet or a draw no bet, or maybe just go all the way up to plus 1.5. But I settled on the double chance here. I haven't actually taken this. I threw up plus 220 just to have a price there. But this is going into what I was saying before about big underdogs. I'm trying to wait. So I haven't actually taken this yet. And plus 220 isn't the official line, but just wanted to give you guys an idea of where this line is at for Brighton double chance, and I think there's a lot of value here because Brighton's only lost one game this season, and Anfield hasn't been completely impenetrable. Nottingham Forest came in there and won, so I think that Brighton to earn a result after just playing them in the League Cup and just overall having some good systems, playing really well. They seem to be gelling well with their new manager, so. Yeah, I think Brighton are going to cover this price here. And I guess one thing I forgot to mention is I did add some spooky stuff here, just a little bit for Halloween. And I've also noticed that I've worn this same orange shirt maybe in all the podcast episodes. That's not by design. That's just happens to be the shirt I decide to wear that day, and that's what I end up wearing on the podcast when I record. So I guess a little bit of continuity going, but. At least it's orange for Halloween. So, at any rate, this is my biggest play along with the next one for the MLS. Unfortunately, this line has moved a bit since I've taken it. I posted it at the time I got this line. I think it's around minus 130 now across most sports books. I would still like that for a half a unit. I took it for a full unit here. And this is kind of another one of those don't overthink it type of bets where uh, the game one of this best of three round one series that MLS does, um, that game finished scoreless, and they're going to be playing on less rest here, and they're playing in Houston where Houston has kept their games very low scoring. I've been betting unders in Houston's home games for the past few months. It's been pretty good. Um, and I think at minus 115, I had it projected at minus 161. Um, so I think there's a good amount of value here. The line is probably only moving in one direction. It's going to be towards the under because of what happened in the last game. So I would recommend if you like this bet to take it quickly because I think it may even close at around where I had it projected. So maybe not that high, but minus 140, minus 150, I could see it closing there because uh, Seattle played it very conservatively. Houston played it very conservatively. I don't really see that changing here. Um, so this is a pretty obvious full unit play spot for me. The reason why I didn't take it in game one, um, just to mention, is that I had it projected at around minus, I think it was minus 120. And I guess in a playoff atmosphere, you could probably elevate that a little bit. Maybe I liked it and especially matchup driven too. I would probably have had it around like minus 130 or something, but the line was already at like minus 120, so I ended up passing on that. Maybe it would have been a good look, but it's just the margins were thin there, so I wanted to um, just pass on that, see how the game goes, and then we can play it here in game two. So that's what we're doing. And then this is my second MLS play here. This is one that I mentioned earlier about waiting for. So you can see I threw up minus 113 for the odds. I'm going to keep waiting. I'm hoping that goes down just a little bit. Maybe we can get minus 110 or better. Even money would be great. But I'm going to go for Atlanta United this time around in the double chance market. I love fading into Miami. I'm going to be doing it next round if they make it. And I think that uh, their expected goals numbers are vastly different than their results. It's pretty remarkable how well they've been overperforming those. But that has been a trend in Lionel Messi's teams that he's played in. Um, they tend to be a little bit underperforming expected goals, and that's probably because their finishing with someone like Messi tends to be a lot better than expected goals would indicate. So I do have a lot of value on Atlanta United here. I tend to, when I'm trying to contextualize that information, considering that this is a Messi back team and that, it could underrate Miami's potential a little bit. So um, I am going with a full unit here, but that's with a little bit of caution because in reality, I have a lot of value. And I think that I passed in game one of this series. I was considering a play on the spread, but I didn't like it a lot, and I just knew that this was going to be a situation where had Miami won, the public perception would have just kept on rolling, and we would get a good spot on here at Atlanta United as a decent sized underdog at home, where they should pull out all the stops, and I think they're going to really go for it. I think they can surprise people. I mean, it was 2-1 in the last game. They had it level going into halftime, I think. Um, and I think in Atlanta, they usually have a pretty strong home fan base. It's going to be rocking, especially with Messi there. And I went with a double chance. It's a little bit safer than maybe I would have liked to gone with the draw no bet, but uh, I could see a situation in a game two of these types of series or a game three where teams are just trying to survive and they're going to trust their ability to push it the full 90 without the extra time. It just goes straight to penalties. So I think if this game is level in the 60th or 70th minute, tactics are going to change for both sides, and they're going to be playing more conservatively. So I think a draw is definitely in play. It wasn't something I really wanted to have equity on in the first games of these round one series because both teams are just going to be full blown going it for the win pretty much. But in the elimination types of games where their backs are against the wall, I think they will play a little bit more conservatively. And if I were an underdog like Atlanta United, um, I wouldn't mind getting a draw here and leaving it up for luck in a penalty situation. Obviously, there's more talent for Miami, but um, you know, typically whoever shoots first wins penalties, right? 60% of the time. So um, I think you kind of play the England Euros approach and hope you can pull off a draw here or even get the win at home. And that leaves us with my final play. And this is one that I want to talk about because um, I want to be one of the cappers who are pretty honest with their picks. I think a lot of people just kind of just say all their bets are great. They wouldn't regret any of them, and everything is just bad luck if it doesn't hit. And I went big on the over in the first game of this series, and I was really wrong. I knew the tactics were going to be in play, um, and I knew that there was a chance that both teams could come out very conservatively, but my projection showed huge value, and the way I was thinking about it was in a game prior to that one. I think it was on October 2nd. These teams met at Salt Lake, and the over 2.5 was priced at minus 250. So in game one of the playoffs, over 2.5 ended up closing at minus 140, and that's where I took it. And I thought this is just a great price where they're kind of overreacting on the scoreless draw that happened on October 2nd, and this line has just moved too far. Um, so I got to go on the over here. Definitely wrong about that. I shouldn't have played that. At least I shouldn't have gone big. I mean, there was so much value, and I think that maybe had Minnesota played a little bit uh, normally, I suppose. I mean, they kind of just immediately sat back in like a 5-4-1 and just went for a low defensive block. We're just gonna park the bus essentially from the first minute type of game. Had they not done that, I think there would have been some value. Probably not. I probably shouldn't have gone 1.5 units. I probably should have gone a half a unit on the over. But at any rate, here we are, and I'm changing my mind. I'm gonna buy back in, or buy the other side essentially. And the reason why I'm gonna take the under here in this game, when I took the over in the last one, is because obviously tactics worked out for Minnesota. They ended up um, finishing scoreless and winning on penalties. So here they are with their chance to knock out Real Salt Lake at home, and I don't think they would do anything different. I think they would just go for another 0-0 draw. I mean, it worked out. Their goalkeeping is great. Dane St. Clair seems to be on top of his game. He had quite a few saves, and I think this just has a recipe for another low-scoring game. At least potential for much higher than plus 148 line indicates. Um, which I did take already, by the way. I forgot to put the book on here. I got it at Heritage at plus 148 today. It opened at like plus 170 or something, but I wasn't on for that. Uh, so I kind of missed that line. The line moved really quickly down, back down towards the under. Um, I have this projected under 2.5 at plus 135, which might be a surprise considering I had the projection so high in the last game. But these are kind of two opposite teams when it comes to home field advantage. Salt Lake tends to play with a very high pace at home, and Minnesota the opposite. So I'm not too surprised why I'm seeing some value on the under. And just given the situation, I think it's a good opportunity to kind of buy in on the other side, basically. So yeah, I mean, I'm not afraid to kind of to take advantage of a situation that I think is that I faded in the past, and I'm gonna admit that I'm wrong, and I'm gonna go on the other side here. This is similar to I think it was my last podcast episode, if not the one before, but I had taken New York City uh, under team total. I think under a half a team total in the Hudson River Derby against Red Bulls, and they ended up scoring five. I mean, it was a pretty speculative wager at like plus 265 or something. Um, and then in the following game, they played Nashville, and I bet the over in that game, and that hit. And I had a really good price on that. I think it was like plus 175 or something. I took on the over 3.5. Um, so I've done this before, and I think it really helps to kind of keep an open mind about these things and not be a stick in the mud, basically. So that'll do it for my podcast this week. Just six bets. I had a lot of leans that I ended up passing on. So let me see if I can just quickly run through the list, Joe, just in case there's some other games that people want to bet, and maybe you're thinking about where I am on that or where you want to go for it. I was debating Newcastle in some fashion against Arsenal. Probably like a just a draw no bet stab on them. Um, because I had some value on them. I think I had their money line at plus 230. So there's a little bit of value there, especially with Arsenal still pretty short-handed and playing on just a few days rest. They both played on Wednesday. Let's see, was there anything else for Premier League? I was debating Tottenham also. Um, I know you're thinking those are both two teams that you probably want to fade, but their stocks are at their lowest right now, and I had Tottenham at around minus 130 or something. So if the line keeps moving down, maybe I'll buy back and I'll post something like if Tottenham got past even money or something on the money line, maybe I'll consider jumping in on there. But both of those bets I ended up passing because they are a bit contradictory to how I've perceived those op oppositions. Um, like I've been backing Arsenal and Aston Villa usually, but I think it's just kind of like the Newcastle and Tottenham stocks have gotten so low that it's kind of a good time to buy in. But do I want to buy in against teams that I like, where I'm just kind of getting value on one side instead of buying low and selling high in the same game. Um, so that's the reason why I ended up passing there. And another one is Chelsea. Uh, Typically, I would be on Chelsea if they still had Ten Hag, but now that they have Van Nistelrooy at the helm, I think that um, I'm just going to stay away because they might be a little bit rejuvenated. Usually, you get the new manager bounce, it's called. So I ended up passing there. And then in the MLS, I was looking at fading the Galaxy, and that is one where um, we can buy low on Colorado and we can sell high on the Galaxy. But um, Colorado has been so bad and their form is so poor that it's really difficult for me to justify that. I want to make sure that I'm considering form into my analysis because I don't have that in my projections. I haven't been doing like a some sort of split where I do like the last 10 games and I incorporate their expected goals. Um, really because I don't have like a reliable source for the data that I want to get for that. So that's why I haven't been doing that. So I kind of want to contextualize it in my head as I'm making these decisions. And Colorado has just been so bad, and they lost their what's his name, Mihailovic or something, some Eastern European guy that was Georgie something. But anyways, he was really big for their team, and I think they're just really demoralized right now. Probably just ready to end the season. So I ended up passing on that. And I'm a little bit surprised by some of the MLS Cup um, lines are have been like really, really generous to home teams. Um, like Charlotte was a team I was pretty excited to back in their home game against Orlando City. I almost did it in their game one, but I ended up passing, which was a good thing. Um, but I thought, well, this is great. It's going to set up a good opportunity for them here. But it ended up being around where my projections had it. So uh, I was kind of disappointed by that. And a similar situation was in Red Bulls in Columbus. It seems to have overcorrected and uh, like it's giving Red Bulls a lot of love that I wouldn't expect from them given the line that they had in game one. So I almost thought about flipping and going to Columbus because I had taken Red Bull's Toronto bet. Um, so that was a really big cash for me at plus 250 um, on Tuesday. But then when I was looking at the line, I thought, well, maybe this is going to be a chance to back Red Bulls again. And I ended up just showing some value on Columbus. So I didn't want to contradict myself, but I think it's a bit of an overcorrection there. So if you like Columbus, I think it's fine to go for that in the lean. I think plus 200 is pretty wide for a team that was basically the second highest favorite to win the MLS Cup, even if they are on the road and Red Bulls are pretty good at home. I don't know. I thought that was a little bit surprising. Um, and for the rest, Vancouver and LAFC. That last game on the schedule there, I don't think I touched on. I had it about where the line is now, so I was fine with passing on that. So that'll do it for me. Yeah, I will chase bets on X. I'm debating if I should maybe do this live or not, just to get a little bit more engagement and see what's going on that way. But for now, I'm just going to keep it as a recording. And thanks for listening, everyone.